Good evening. I would like to call the Ross ADR August 15th meeting to order now. Before we do anything else, we do our customary, do we have people in on Zoom or not tonight? Okay. Before we do anything else, we have 3 minutes that anyone who wants to speak about an item not on the agenda can speak. That's part of the public meeting process in the state of California. Okay, if no one is going to do that, the first order of business is to approve the minutes. The June 20th minutes we looked at last time, and one of you, I believe it was you, Joey, correctly pointed out that they hadn't detailed the conceptual design of one project. Did anyone look over that to make sure it correctly summarized what you had all said? I wasn't here for that meeting. I did. Oh, and was it correct? Yes. Okay, so I suggest we approve those minutes. Second me.
I second you.
Great. And for the July 18th minutes, I did read over those and I was here and those look good to me. So I would suggest we approve those unless someone has some changes that they saw needed to be made.
No, I second that.
Great. So those are both done. Now for the planning project, I know there are very few of you, but I'll just tell you how we do the meetings. First, the town presents a project briefly, then the owners and or their design team presents it in a more thorough fashion, in which time the ADR members can ask questions. After that, we open it up to the public for any comments or questions. After that, we bring it back to the ADR where we give our recommendations to the town council. And the first project tonight is 1 Pomeroy Road. Would you like to briefly describe that project?
Be recused.
Yeah, I'm supposed to recuse myself from the project because I live nearby.
Okay, noted.
Oh, you're gonna step out or?
Oh. Oh.
Okay. Sorry about that. Let's see. Okay. Well, good evening, ADR members. Tonight, the applicant at 1 Pomeroy Road is requesting approval of design review and a variance. The project proposes to construct a new pool and spa within the side and rear yard setback and a pool equipment unit within an existing shed. Project also includes removing the existing concrete driveway and replace it with permeable pavers. Staff requests that the ADR group discuss the merits of the project and provide a formal recommendation to town council. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you step up to the podium? Because we need to have everything recorded. And you might need to turn that microphone on.
How about this? Perfect. Well, thank you for the time tonight. My name is Mitch St. Peter. My wife, Jeannie St. Peter, is in the house tonight, as well as Erica Timbrell, who's our landscape designer, and Jim Clark, who's joining us through Zoom, who's our civil engineer. Let me just start by saying we are new and very happy homeowners in Ross as of last fall. Jeannie and I are a family of 5. Our kids are 5, 4, and 2. And as was just discussed, we're seeking approval for a variance to build a pool, and we really need to tire these kids out at night. So we're really hoping you approve us so we can get a little bit better sleep. I figured I'd give you just a quick overview of the key points of the project. We also have some visuals to kind of orient you in terms of what we're thinking, but ultimately we want to leave plenty of time for questions so you can get comfortable with what we're doing. What we'd like to do is to install a relatively small pool. It's a pool of 16 feet by 32 feet that is consistent with the existing environment and surrounds of our property, and allows us to still preserve a small flat play area that is used by our children today. A couple of key issues. The pool will not be seen by any of our neighbors if we're allowed to build it in the proposed location. The pool equipment will not be heard by any of our neighbors because we are going to put it into an existing maintenance room that sits adjacent to the proposed site. So it won't be exposed externally that could cause unnecessary noise. And many of the materials that we're proposing using are going to match the existing bluestone hardscape as well. And the last thing I'll say is we are going to offset the new impermeable space by adding permeable driveway pavers to the front of our house. So why are we here? We're here to seek a variance. The interesting thing about our property is that we are a 1.2 acre property, but we are zoned for 5 acres. So the limitations that we face are much more restrictive than they would be if we were zoned for a property of a similar size. So we feel for that reason, we face a hardship in that way. And if you considered a 1 acre sort of set of limitations, the proposed pool site would comfortably sit within those limitations by several feet. And we've detailed a lot of those numbers in the packets and materials were provided. And so that's really the main hardship that we face. If we were to move the pool to sit within the existing 5 acre limitations, a couple things would happen. The first thing is we would move it to a center of the center of a flat area that our children use to play. And we're really kind of confiscating a lot of space that is used by children to make room for the pool. And so we're kind of taking up a bunch of the flat space that we use today. The other thing that would happen is if we moved it to comply with the sort of 5 acre limitations, our neighbors would also see the pool. Whereas today, if we have it in the proposed site, they would not see it, which we think is both good for them and for us. I think the other thing we wanted to call out is that we engaged engineers at Miller Pacific Engineering, and as they surveyed the site, did soil testing and did other preparations, they felt like the proposed location was the least intrusive as you considered things like drilling into bedrock and associated items. And I think the last thing I'll just kind of close with is that this is kind of not uncommon what we're considering in this area. Our neighbors at 3 Newell have sought and I think been approved for a pool area that's outside of their zoned area, but within kind of so outside of the 5 acre zone area themselves. And so we just thought that was an interesting kind of data point to share with you as well. So that's kind of the overview of the project. Maybe if I can just kind of quickly run through some visuals of what we're thinking about, and then we can go from there. So you can go to the next slide. That's perfect. This gives you a 360-degree view of the proposed site that we're thinking about, or we're proposing. As you can see, like if we moved it sort of deeper into that center grass area, we're kind of neutering the flat space that is such an important part of our backyard. And so we're really trying to keep it on the edge of the yard as demonstrated in that area. You go to the next slide, please. This shows you kind of an overall view where the pool is. We can stay here. Yeah. This kind of shows you an overall view of where the pool sits within our property lines today. If you go forward or more, this is where we would put the pool equipment. So this is an existing structure in our house. It kind of works perfectly for the site, so we don't have to expose the pool equipment, which could create unnecessary noise. If you go to the next one, this is information you have that outline kind of the proposed changes in terms of the parameters of the zone. If you go to maybe go one more, keep going. If you go back, that one. This gives you a sense of our neighbors and the view that they would have if the pool was moved to the center of our kind of flat grass area. Whereas if we have it in the proposed area, they basically would not have this view, so that they would not see the pool. And then the last piece, I think this is an important kind of visual as well. This gives you a sense of if we have a 1.2 acre site. If our home, an area was zoned for a 1 acre set of limitations, the kind of black dotted line represents what the limitations would be under that set of facts, which just basically shows you that it would sit very comfortably within the 1 acre set of limitations. Again, the reason we're seeking the variance is because, for whatever reason, we're not exactly sure of the history. We are zoned for 5 acres, but we're actually a 1 acre property. And frankly, most of the 1 acre that we have is unusable. So we're trying to do the best we can with a very limited set of area in keeping with you know, the surrounds and trying to acknowledge the best parts of our property. So I'll leave it there.
Sorry,
Yeah, it's-
could you, the red line is the
the
5
red
acre
line,
rear
excuse me.
setback.
I'm confused. Yeah. It's. I think it's this line right here, right?
Oh, I see. Okay. Thank you.
Sorry, I got confused.
Thank you. Yeah, I have one quick one. Somewhere in the packet, it talked about hitting bedrock. So this is shallower bedrock in this location versus having to go deeper with piers in closer to the actual structure.
That's right. I mean,
Okay.
Erica and
If that's okay, thank you.
thank you.
Uh, Normally, on a project like this, I would say, well, the pool should just be out of the setbacks because you're not going to have findings for putting a pool inside the setbacks. However, I think they make an excellent point here that their hardship, to me, is that this is in a 5 acre, it's zoned for a 5 acre lot, and it's not. I think the site has no adverse effect on any of the neighbors. It seems logical. If it was one of the many cases we've seen where they're trying to put the pool over on the side, preserve their own flat space, and shove things out towards the neighbor's house in an inconsiderate way, I would say it shouldn't be approved, but I think this is a perfect example of one that, to me, works very well. So I would recommend approval as is. And the hardship was sort of spelled out here in their page that you all have. Okay, that's my comments. Who would like to go next?
I agree. I think that, you know, we have to assess pools all the time that don't conform to setbacks for various reasons, just because of the irregular shape of lots here and how lots don't meet minimum lot size parameters or kind of reasonable tests in other ways. And I think this is a good example. I think if we had heard from the neighbor immediately to the west, then we might be in a position of debate or something. But I don't think that it affects anyone negatively, certainly enough to be concerned by it. So I think it's great as proposed and would suggest we approve it.
So I have two thoughts. One is, I'm not sure I agree with Mark. I'm not sure I agree that they haven't pushed this outside of their lot line so they get as much usable space interior and pushing this outside. So when I look at this, I think, yeah, the perfect spot for the pool is actually in the flat area of the wall. It just happens that they want that to be the play area. And I thought, well, they should just flip it, right? Put the pool inside the setbacks, and they're obviously going to be disturbing this area where they're proposing the pool, make that the play area, right? So conform to the setbacks, flop the two, and you get your flat area, you get your pool in the setbacks, everything's hunky-dory. So I say that with, you know, thinking through like, okay, this isn't what I'm actually going to recommend. I actually think we should recommend the project because I agree with you overall. This isn't going to affect the neighbors. The project at 3 Newell actually has their pool somewhat adjacent to this pool. So we're kind of marrying up sound issues. And if you remember, when we did 3 Newell, that pool was existing. We didn't actually have an impact. We have no say on whether that pool was moved or not. So that's been there for a while. So I guess I would disagree with the logic behind where they are placing it, but I think I'm okay with it because I do believe they're just over an acre, like barely. And those setbacks are significantly different between 70 feet and 40 feet or 45. So while I kind of disagree with the logic that you had there, I wanted to point out, they really could flip the two and have the flat area where they have the pool and pull the pool within the setbacks. But I don't think that's a necessary change to recommend because I think this is just fine from a design review perspective. Does that make sense? So thumbs up on supporting the project solely because of the. Thumbs down on me, but thumbs down on you. But I actually think that there is another solution that gets it out of the setbacks that doesn't actually limit them to having flat play area in the site. I don't think that's a legit. I guess here's my point. That's not a legitimate cause for looking at a variance on this, in my opinion. I think it's more about the lot size in relationship to the 5 acre versus the 1 acre. And we're so close to the 1 acre, and it's a significant difference in the rear setback. There are no neighbors that are adjacent to it. So that would be how I would go after the conditions of findings. Thank you. Okay, great. Joey?
Brittany. I would approve it as designed. I think it's in a great spot. I think that the findings are that this lot is kind of being held to 5 acre standards when it's barely over an acre. And I also think that the location provides privacy for both the homeowners and the people above them. So they're not looking in a pool, and the people in the pool are not looking up at the living structure above. I would also just say for the record, I think it's ridiculous we're looking at a pool that's so far away from the property line. It's so fine compared to some of the pools we are looking at here in town that are 5 feet off the property line. This is so fine. So I approve it.
Great. Thank you. We'll move on to the next project. Have a nice night. Okay, the next item is 128 Winding Way.
Good evening, members. The applicant at 128 Winding Way is requesting approval of design review and a hillside lot permit. The project proposes to construct a new 6-foot automatic gate that will have 2 6-foot brick columns. The project also includes a 42-inch guardrail to match the existing guardrail that will connect to the driveway gate. Staff requests that the ADR group discuss the merits of the project and provide a formal recommendation to town council. Thank you. Yes, I believe, Martin, can you hear us?
Yes, thank you, Alex. My name is Martin Kellogg. I am representing my clients for this project. Thank you for your time. I guess we are proposing an auto gate that will provide additional security and privacy to the property. And let's see. I guess I can share my screen. 1 second.
I just made you a co-host.
Okay, great, thank you. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. So we are proposing a wood and metal gate that sort of matches the architecture of the home, and the two columns also are proposed to be bluestone and an ashlar pattern that also matches the retaining walls. And the gate is proposed to be 13 feet wide and a single swing out. And then there's a guardrail that goes up and meets an existing guardrail that's further up the driveway. I think the primary reason this is under additional review is that it's in driveway easement, so it's an auto right of way. So that might be an important point to bring up, but the neighbor to the east, it's my understanding that they're in support of this project.
I have a question. So it's one single gate that opens outward, and it's a down sloping driveway, well, down towards the street. So
Correct.
how far, when it's open, will the bottom of that gate be above the ground?
That is a good question. I don't actually have that dimension. The driveway does slope down when it's fully open. It's also against a existing dry stacked stone wall. But I don't have the dimension of how far the tip of that gate is above the ground.
Okay. Are there any questions?
Quick question on I think there's a ordinance around permeability or openness of the gates. This looks a little less than 50%. Do you have any idea? I think that's the sort of standard by which Ross operates. This looks maybe 35% open, something like that. I don't know if you have a calculation. I'm being too picky, but I'm curious to know if that meets that.
That is correct. It's definitely less than 50% open. And we could adjust the design to make it 50% if that was an important consideration. Yeah, so that's, I think it is close to 35%, but I don't have the exact number.
And then maybe just another follow-up question, thinking about the design. It is, from the drawings that we got prior to the meeting, I wasn't aware that it was a single operating gate. I'm curious, it looks like a design for a two-panel gate, that opens symmetrically from the center. Just curious, I was surprised to see it as a singular. Is there a reason it's not just operating like it's designed, like a single split down the middle gate?
Yes, that is the desire of my client, that it is a single swing. And then the look of the gate, they like this particular look. I think we will probably de-emphasize that seam in the middle, but this is a sort of a look that they really like. So it's I don't know if that's inappropriate to have it look like it opens in two pieces, but it's actually one, but that's the sort of the desire.
Sure.
Any other questions?
Sure, just curious if you could show us where all the guardrail is going to be added to, and then also you had mentioned this is in some kind of like easement, which is why it's under review. Could you show us that and explain that a little bit more, please?
Yes, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Alex, would you share your screen? Is that possible? So the extent of the 42-inch guardrail basically goes from the roundabout, which is the circle in this case. There's a little arrow that says new 42-inch guardrail, and it's a line that could be thicker, but it goes up to an existing 42-inch guardrail that goes around that curve. And so it's basically connecting the edge of the gate up to that existing guardrail as it goes up the hill. And that portion of it is really not very visible from the street because it's behind quite a bit of vegetation and quite a bit higher than the street at that point.
What is the color and material of that guardrail?
It is metal, and it is it's painted kind of a gray, a dark gray, almost a black. So it's matching the existing guardrail that's up at the top.
And sorry, go on, Laura, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Oh, I was just kind of going to continue my question, that easement area, what does that mean in terms of like what, and maybe this is for you, Alex, what we're supposed to review?
So we're not, like, I guess technically reviewing that. They do have a easement amendment with the neighbor saying that it's okay for them to build the gate. So that's just part, it's also part of the report.
Okay, thanks.
How would you describe the color of the gate? Just metallic blue?
I would say, yeah, aqua metallic blue, something like that.
Okay. Any questions? Is your microphone on?
Over 48
it's-
inches in an easement, like.
Over
off of a
48
public
inches,
right-of-way.
and it's a hillside lot, so.
Yeah, yeah, even that's.
Maybe I didn't clarify when Mark was asking the question on the color of the gate. The bottom material, is it wood or metal? Those.
Yes, the gate itself is, the structure of the gate is metal and then it's wood panels. So you're seeing painted wood, but the thing that's actually making the gate rigid is metal.
Thank you.
All right, any more questions? All right, I'll open up to the public. Is there anyone in the public who has any questions or comments on the project?
No.
Okay. Who would like to go first?
You can go first.
Thank you.
I don't have any feedback for you. I think if, you know, you're kind of matching the existing conditions and the house and the existing guardrail. So I think it seems like a good project.
Hi. Well, I guess since you're at design review, you might hear a few design comments. It seems completely reasonable, the project itself, but if I were designing this gate, somehow it seems like the columns should be at the height of the outside edges instead of matching the height of the arch. Just like that to me, and perhaps the design itself is a little ornate compared to the style of the house, but that's just my opinion. I do think it's odd to have that whole gate swinging just this huge sweep, and that it actually might end up being a little inconvenient to have to be in a car and stay back for the swing of that giant gate, as opposed to you could pull up a little bit off the road if those were bifolding swinging gates. So that would just be my design recommendations. However, I think in terms of the gate being in that location and the guardrails, that's all fine with me. I just submit those ideas for your consideration. Okay.
I agree with Joey that I think it would be much better if it was a two-part gate, so it didn't open as far out. And I think the point about a car would have to be parked, I don't know, maybe 15 feet behind the gate in order to open it, and probably, like you said, on the street. I also think it should go along with the town code of being at least 50% see-through. I think that would look nicer. And then I'd like to hear the comments of the other ADR members on the coloring.
Joey, why don't you finish up on that then? Yeah.
Sorry, I did forget about the color. I would just like to see it dark and go away, kind of match the house. And I forgot to mention the 50% transparency. I think is pretty important. Sorry.
So in the house, there were workers and a truck when I was there. What is the color of the house? Is it a dark blue?
The house is it has a little bit of blue in it instead of a dark gray. And the front door of the house is the same color as we're proposing for the gate. So it's this blue that the clients really like.
Okay.
Did you want, is that, that doesn't change your opinion?
So,
on the
so,
gate?
so were you saying you'd like it to be, you think it would look better dark gray or the blue color proposed that matches the future door? I'm not sure the door was actually there at the moment. It might have just been open when I was there.
I would vote for it to be dark like the house and kind of go away.
Okay, thank you. I would agree with Joey's assessment of the coloring.
Yeah, I think my comments would focus around the single swing. Just looking at the dimensions you have here, we've got about a 33-foot dimension to the gate to the edge of the roadway with a 13-foot gate. Yeah, you're leaving about 20 feet, which is enough for a car, but only if that car knows exactly how far that gate's going to swing open. I think you'd be better off with a bifold so that you're allowing someone to pull further off that road. It isn't a particularly wide road with a lot of clearance, so I think you're going to just have a safer condition if you're splitting that gate. And then I think the design actually starts to work a little better because it certainly screams bifold. And I concur with my colleague's comments about the color. It would be nicer to see it a little dark and disappear into the landscape. And I think it should meet the ordinance around 50% openness. Other than that, I think it's fine.
Thank you. Stevie?
I agree with all the comments. I think that the diagonal trellis just isn't working for me in combination with the vertical panels. And so maybe considering vertical pickets that are the same material or color as the gate. I don't feel that strongly about color. I think Joey's comment about the the bollards or the corner posts is good, that they look like they pre-existed the gate, but both are new now. And somehow, so I think those should be brought down to be level with the shoulder of the low point of the curve, as you pointed out. I think it would just look good. And then I don't know if we asked what the material of the bollards is. Is it the same as the stone on the walls that currently surround the driveway?
So there's an existing dry stack stone wall that is
On one side of the
on
driveway.
one side, and then the other side actually has the retaining wall that goes up the hill, and that's bluestone that's in an ashlar pattern. And so the two columns are matching that bluestone ashlar.
Good, okay, fine, as long as they're matching something. So I guess to summarize, I would suggest bringing down those bollards or those columns, changing the pattern of the material on the upper section of the gate to be vertical in concert with the panels below. I can take or leave the 50% in this case just because the view is just of the asphalt going up the hill. I don't really care so much about that, but I guess the code is there for a reason, right? So you can see your neighbors as you walk by. I think switching to two pair is good. There's about 30 feet from the street edge to the gate. And so a car is 16 feet. So you got to be really kind of perfect. And it would give you a little more room to not be so vehicle, specific, right? So anyway, that's all. But I think it's a great project and should proceed to council with those modifications.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
We're done?
Thank you, Martin.
Have a nice evening. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, we have no conceptual advisory design review. Is there any information and discussion items?
No.
Okay. I move we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Okay, meeting adjourned.
Thank you. Thanks, Alex.